Hello, I'm here to basically make a statement, and I've come to this conclusion after my experiences in these spaces. I want to say that black people should not join the left. They should never consider joining the left. And this is not me endorsing the right or the center. In fact, I want to suggest that black people need to make their own political spectrum, something that fits them, and that's more based on their situation circumstances, because this left and right stuff does not really help black people out to understand where people are and what believes in what, and it just doesn't help us. It doesn't really apply to us that well. It's Eurocentric. And the left doesn't want to liberate black people. They don't really prioritize black people. No matter how much you think they do, the left's goal is not to liberate black people, okay? That is not their goal. I just want to make that very clear. There are black leftists that do not prioritize black liberation. There are black leftists that idolize and celebrate more European, Eurocentric ideas and figures. Many of these people here do not necessarily celebrate black people and Afrocentric ideas and Afrocentric perspectives and history, They might reference Africa or reference at the fact that they're black, but they don't really have that pro-black lifestyle. When I mean pro-black lifestyle, it's looking at your history, it's celebrating your people, it's celebrating the culture, etc., etc. They more celebrate more European and Eurocentric type figures, or even Asiatic type figures. This stuff doesn't really seem to be focused or centered around black people and their struggle. At the end of the day, what people want is something completely different than black liberation. And honestly, black people should not be involved in these spaces if that's the case. It's not a coincidence that a lot of pro-black people are excluded or alienated from these spaces because they really don't support pro-black politics. They can give you the idea that they do, but it's a superficial support of black liberation. Because all the time people run into all these arguments and these questions and they demonize black people who basically give them what they think is best for them. The left does not really support black people. So black people need to leave this space and make their own space, which is more based and focused on solving their issues and liberating themselves from the system of oppression. Because as we have seen, the left has not solved the problems of black people. Now, I'm not necessarily talking about the Black Panthers or Malcolm X, as they were politically left based off this spectrum in a sense. It's the fact that when it comes to these groups and these organizations and in these spaces, they always have a problem with black people. You have to understand that Marcus Garvey was a capitalist, but yet Marcus Garvey has inspired so many people after his death, like Malcolm X, the Black Panthers, Asar Shakur. He gave the groundwork for a lot of black power ideas and philosophy. Yet he'd be considered more to the right. See how this doesn't make sense for us? This doesn't help us at all. Many people would say this person's more conservative on the right just because they might have a right-wing position. This doesn't really help explain black people's situation because it's not based on Afrocentrism. It's based more on Eurocentrism. So we need to make something that's more based on ourselves because it gives us a better understanding on where we are as people politically, And quite frankly, the left is full of a lot of opportunists and people who are just full of shit. They don't really act any different from a typical centrist. They can act like they do because they believe in communism or Marxism, but in all, they do the same shit and perpetuate the same bullshit that they claim other people do. So honestly, black people should not be around others who are going to antagonize them, who are going to dismiss them, who are only going to basically participate and contribute to their own trauma, their own stress, their own self-destruction. No, black people need to get away from toxic and unhealthy spaces like that and build something for themselves that will help build for their future, that will help liberate them from this system, and that will give us sovereignty and independence from white supremacy and just this society controlled by white people. We need to create something for ourselves, to build ourselves up, and to guarantee a future for our descendants. One thing I feel like I'm missing is that when it comes to people on the left, they give you this all lives matter energy. If you notice, a lot of people like to say POC, BIPOC, all this shit, right? And honestly, just say black. A lot of times when people use POC or BIPOC, they're trying to not say black. and trying to leave it vague and ambiguous. That does not help black people, and it allows manipulation to actually take place. When an issue is specifically on black people, stop using, POC, stop using BIPOC, and just say black people. Just say black people. Because you're not going to co-opt black people's struggle for your own advantage. You're not going to do that. That needs to end now. But as we can see, the left has this all lives matter energy, even though they might say Black Lives Matter and put in their bio. They also have all lives matter energy. And it's shown when black people are trying to talk about their issues. It's like everyone tries to make black people look like bigots and antagonizers all the time. Especially black Americans a lot. Like people try to make black people look like they're the antagonizers, like they're ignorant, like they're bigots, etc., etc. And like they have to prioritize all these other groups while black people are literally on the bottom in the submission position, are literally suffering and going through all this hardship. Nobody ever prioritizes them in these spaces. They have to prioritize their own oppressors from the left point of view. And it's stupid. Like every conversation about black liberation, everybody keeps asking, can white people be involved? What about this? What about that? And it's never centered on black people. It's centered on anyone that's not black because they all want access to black people. Black people need to leave this space now. Just leave it. One thing you should understand as well is that you should not trust these people on the left. Yeah, sure, they might tell you that they support black nationalism, they support black liberation, they're pro-black and whatnot, but it's all superficial. Everybody might support black nationalism because Bosch crapped on it, but in all honesty, none of these people actually know what black nationalism is and how it works, right? They don't really look up that stuff. So they're lying to you, and it's very vague and it's very insincere, right? They do not have a black agenda. They sincerely do not have a black agenda. Because once you become specific about what you mean when it comes to black liberation, they will turn on you. Because their support and idea of black liberation is vague and it's basically nothing. They don't know what it looks like. They don't know what it is. They just vaguely support it. They don't know what it really is. They have no black agenda. So how can they ever imagine black liberation, right? They do not prioritize or ever really care about black people in these spaces. They just use you as a token to get ahead for themselves and for their own interests. They just want access to us. That's really it. Like, understand that people in these spaces oppose reparations. Literally. These people that support black people apparently oppose reparations. That's all you need to know. That's all you need to know.
We could invest. We could prevent that from being a problem.
But there are more poor white people than poor black people.
Sure, and we should invest, absolutely. But there are specific elements of
black poverty.
To be fair, I think you already said
reparations on class,
not race anyway.
Yeah,
I get it.
And there's a disproportion of people of one race who might be wealthier or
he's being held hostage by Tim in his basement. If
you enact racial policy, you leave people poor and you don't actually solve the problem of poverty. So is our goal to just say we want to help one race, ignoring all the others, or do we want to end poverty? In which case, these programs should be ended, and our policies should be based on class and not race, so long as we've gotten rid of racism in our laws.
Sure, there are racial disparities that'll need to be addressed as well. If you have black folk on average in a certain place and white folk on average in a better place, lifting people out of poverty won't fix the respective divide between black and white people. It'll just level the pot in general.
If you have black folk on average in a certain place and white folk on average in a better place, lifting people out of poverty won't fix the respective divide between black and white people. It'll just level the pot in general.
So here we have a white leftist socialist explaining to this guy who is a cheerleader for the alt-right how the left plans to screw the American descendants of slavery out of reparations. The alt-right motherfucker is receptive to this idea because he understands that this will not change the racial hierarchy in America. The white leftist admits the con game of using the term reparations to screw black people, and they find common ground on the idea of black people remaining at the bottom of this society. And you still believe these are your fucking allies?
Or they basically say it would never happen. They discourage it from happening. They don't fight for it. They can fight for everything else. They can literally fight for a communist utopia, and before they fight for reparations, they will leave their own people hanging. They will leave their own people hanging for white people, or they just will not be there for their people when they're actually being harmed. The left might tell you that they're pro-black, but all the time you see a lot of black people alone, with no support, with no assistance, but yet everyone here is saying I'm pro-black. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense to step in a room that has all these pro-black signs and people with pro-black shirts, but then as a black person, you're literally dying right in front of them and nobody calls 911. That's how the space is. It's all insincere. It's all performative. Performative activism is literally a big part of this space. So, like, I think black people should not be here. I think they should take their, their energy and investment somewhere else that will actually get them where they need to go. Ironically, as everyone here identifies as a socialist and a communist and a Marxist, everyone here engages as a capitalist to me, and that's where I find the biggest irony of the left right now. Everyone claims to be against capitalism, but then they engage in a lot of capitalist tendencies. And I just find that to be poetic justice to me, because it shows that all the shit that they say means absolutely fucking nothing. And honestly, you should take that and you should and use that information to say, you know what, I'm not gonna get caught up here, and I'm gonna go somewhere else that's actually gonna respect me and actually care about my issues and actually try to liberate me from the structures that are currently destroying me. Yeah, that's all I had to say. That's how I feel. If you feel like I'm right, if you want to support me, hey, check the comments, check the description. You can, support me if you want. No, do it if you can. I'm not forcing you, but black power to my black family. We need to, get out of this situation, and we need to beat this. We need to beat this white supremacist structure. We deserve to be happy. We deserve to be free. We deserve to live our goddamn lives. And anyone that's in our way is not an ally, but an enemy. So have a great day, or have a great night, whenever time you're watching this, or have a great evening. And I see you later.